Hi. Uh, thank you all for coming for the meeting today. The agenda that I really wanted to discuss in today's meeting was actually to discuss the long-term strategy of our line of business, given the strategic decision we made at the top of the firm, at the corporate level, to stop originating any assets for this line of business. So, what I'm looking forward from today's meeting are pretty much two things. A is actually three things. The first thing is to actually provide a lot of context, which some of you may or may not have, on where we are coming from and why we went there. The second thing actually is to present the recommendations on what is it that what is it that we are recommending, and the third thing being senior leaders. I'm definitely looking for your inputs to pretty much fine tune our recommendation and our strategy going forward. So that's the agenda. That's what I'm really trying to achieve here out of this meeting. So let me first start by providing a little bit of context, like I said, on where we are coming from and why is it that we are recommending it. And having that context, I think, would be very important for to basically have a very good quality discussion. So as you all know, a couple of months back, we stopped originating assets in our line of business, and as such, when my team, my strategy and analysis team that I currently head, we were tasked with the job of pretty much figuring out, hey, what does the future lie for this line of business post that decision. So the business as such post that decision was faced with three key challenges. The first major challenge was pretty much strategic fit. I mean, there was a very strategic decision made on why we do not want to originate assets in this business. So again, the very nature of that decision makes the current line of business sort of a misfit, if you would, for the lack of a better word, purely from a overall corporate strategy perspective. The second thing was on sort of the economics of the business. Pretty much you run into scale issues as soon as you run into a dwindling down business. Your volumes are coming down, you lose scale efficiencies, as well as purely on a sort of a return basis. This business is profitable, but not is a hugely profitable business. So purely from a shareholder value perspective, probably there are better investment opportunities elsewhere in the firm that we could pursue, and probably that I think was one of the key drivers why we stopped, or why we made that strategic decision to stop originating assets. The third dimension, or the third key challenge or complication was on the people dimension. You really want people to come to work charged and feeling a sense of purpose. Now, if you know that, hey, there is no future strategic intent to originate such assets, there is no future strategy here, it has a very negative impact on people, and that's obviously it's probably a very obvious thing. But as we thought through this, these were sort of the three key challenges, that we really tried to solve as we tried to work through our recommendation. So our approach was so we had three options at this point. The first one was to, hey, let's just continue BAU and let the business just run down. That, again, because of the challenges that I mentioned, was clearly not an option, right? The second thing, which probably we explored a whole lot harder, was actually evaluating a sale decision, as in, could we potentially sell this business to somebody whose assets starved. Again, keep in mind the overall assets of this business are in excess of $1 billion. So if any firm looking for these kinds of assets, this would be a great buy. We did the analysis. Again, the analysis is there in the deck that is presented to you. But the analysis suggested that the economics of selling are incredibly profitable. But again, there were two challenges there. One was the fact that there's people challenges there, which is people would have to be redeployed, and which probably is not the best thing to do. Again, from a firm's shareholder value perspective, we could argue back and forth, but my personal bias was that probably was not the right thing to do. And the second most important thing that I thought was purely from a competitive standpoint, which is selling the business to somebody else, opens us, gives the competitor a lot of insight into, our practices and things and so on and so forth. So that comes to the third option, which is what we are recommending, which is to look for synergies within the firm. And we've done this analysis, and we've looked at this business unit X, and that's what I'm using for the purposes of this presentation, to merge and synergize with that particular line of business. Solves the problem of long-term risks, helps people find jobs where we see a strategic fit, and also purely from a purely economics perspective, you also gain the efficiencies of scale. That line of business is running into scale issues. We are running into scale issues. But for me personally, like I had mentioned to you earlier, the biggest reason for us recommending this was purely people. Hiring and retaining the best people is one of our core values of the firm, and I think through this recommendation we could actually potentially solve that problem, as opposed to just laying off a bunch of people and a bunch of overhead and restructuring that comes along with it. So that's our recommendation. Would definitely open it up for questions and any comments that you have at this point. Thank you.